I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
Guys, what is up? Welcome back. Oops, the podcast. Giulio Gallerati, standing along. Ryan loves horror very much. Lynch.
Yo.
We're having a big day. We've already gotten so much done today, and here we are now recording the pod. Lynch texted me last night before, the night before recording, and was like, "Hey, if I came over early, would you be down to watch Hereditary together?" It's the Halloween season, Halloween season. And Lynch loves horror movies. He particularly loves Hereditary. I also like horror movies, even though sometimes I get scared. And I was like, let me think about it for a sec. Cause I'm like, all right, I have a long day, as we all do. And I was like, do I feel like doing that? But then I was like, yeah, dude, like what a hilarious thing to do. First of all, a fun activity for us to do together. Lynch seemed very excited about it, which definitely helped. And a hilarious undertaking to watch a movie at 9 a.m. to begin with, let alone one of the scariest horror movies that supposedly ever exists. This movie definitely lived up to it. Super scary, but also super good. I think that's important for a good horror movie.
Yeah.
And we were just sitting there watching it. It's like 10 a.m. and like heads are falling off and all sorts of classic horror movie shit. And it was a great experience.
It was. I may say we may be the only people that have ever watched Hereditary at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. I have so much shit I got to get done today. But when you were texting me last night asking if I've seen X and if I suggest that movie, it reminded me of the time on the podcast when I said we should watch Hereditary sometime. And you said you were down. So I followed up. So Giulio said, let me think about it for a sec. And then this is a big Giulio word that he says in text. Theoretically could be down. So when I read that, I was like, "Oh, Giulio's going to decline in about 30 minutes, but he's being really polite." Polite pondering.
Yeah, but I don't need to say theoretically could be down. Could be down means theoretically could be down.
Yeah, but I like
softening the blow.
I like that. When I'm on the phone with my brother, he always redundantly says "in regards to," and then just says whatever he could have said without saying that.
Right.
And then I said no press, and then you thought about it for exactly 36 minutes.
Nice.
And then you said, "Let's do it."
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude.
So this movie makes me feel a weird type of way. I've seen it a couple times before today, and I was like, what better way to start the day than also getting a red eye cold brew before coming over so I can get the heart really pumping.
Yeah, I ripped an energy drink.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. Threw in a Lucy, and we sat there and enjoyed it. And yeah, scary as all hell. One thing that's funny, man, whenever I'm watching a horror movie, I sort of instinctively because any good horror movie does a great job at sort of like establishing the movie rooted in reality. So it's just like a normal day, normal people doing normal stuff. So then whatever happens to them is more profound and more painful for the viewer, which is the whole point of watching horror movies, to be scared and to feel a certain way or whatever. Get the thrill of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be sitting there and I'm watching these things happen to these characters. And in back of my head, I'm just hoping that everything works out. I'm like, hopefully it'll be fine. And hopefully, but I just realized that like we're slowly slipping into this tragedy that's about to happen. And this did not disappoint in that regard. In regards to. But yeah, dude, fuck. What an experience.
Theoretically, a very good film.
What are some other good horror movies that we can recommend? I know we sort of dance around this every year, but I want to reiterate some of our favorites, movies that we like, and horror movies.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of them. This was great.
Yeah, that one really slaps for me. I think I've mentioned it, my love for this movie enough times on the podcast. All I will say is Toni Collette, she deserved an Oscar nomination, I think.
Is it Tani or Tony?
I say Tani. Okay. I could be very wrong with that.
I might be wrong by saying Tony.
I call her Tani.
Tony, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
Okay, she's amazing. Agreed.
She's amazing, and there's something super attractive about her character, which is, I don't know if that's a me thing, but
dude, I believe she won an Academy Award for The Sixth Sense.
The
supporting actor.
I haven't seen The Sixth Sense.
Really?
No, but I fell in love with her in Little Miss Sunshine.
She's great in that too. She is so good. The Sixth Sense is incredible. Like a must watch, you know, to the point where people talk about it so much. It's like a classic comedy reference, the way that like there are certain words that just rhyme well and every freestyle rapper says certain things, or every rapper says Taliban because Taliban rhymes with everything. So like Sixth Sense is constantly referenced in people's jokes. So like you may even already know what happens, listeners, if you haven't seen it, but very good. And that kind of put M. Night Shyamalan on the map. That's why he's been this prolific. The move is to pop when you're super young, guys, because when you're this young director, if your movie rips, you're good for life. You can then make whatever you want, and even if the movies suck, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, so
Spike Lee, another example.
She was nominated for an Academy Award. She did win a Tony Award.
Got it. Tony won a Tony.
Tony won a Tony. Tony
won a Tony.
Tony won a Tony. So yeah, that is true. I think of some of the recent directors like Ari Aster. Like he made this movie. It absolutely, they were like, hey, you want to make this movie? Go for it.
He made Hereditary?
We're A24. Have your directorial debut with us. We'll fund it. We're trying to get into horror.
He's young probably.
And then that movie, he's like in his mid 30s
so
now.
at the time, it was 10 years ago?
2018 or 17.
Okay.
So then he made that movie. It was an absolute smash. Then he was like, I want to make this movie called Midsummer. Absolute
Great
smash.
Movie. Great movie. Right,
But
that's on the recommended list.
That's on the recommended list. But then he made Beau is Afraid with Joaquin Phoenix, which had all the makings to be the best third. It could have been the most amazing third movie that a director had. Hit after hit after hit. That one kind of flopped in the box office. You could say that you liked it. You can say that you hated it, but it flopped in the box office, and they'll still give him whatever he wants to make whatever movie he wants in the future.
Well, this tends to
popped
happen.
Off young.
And I want to get back on the horror movie topic, but this tends to happen when the great creatives sort of progress in their careers because, they want to make a progression. So doing whatever they did originally is no longer enough for them, and it starts to progress. And sometimes it can progress into an area where, is this relatable? Do people like it? Is this something people want to see? They also tend to start getting a little more agency over what ends up in the final cut, which never works out for anybody. You'll notice that Quentin Tarantino movies, Scorsese movies, they always end up being like longer than the average movie because they're allowed to keep more things in. And usually the feedback from people is, it was too long. It was too long. I felt that way about the Oklahoma movie. What was it again?
Flower Moon.
Which is a good movie, but yeah, it was long. And so this tends to happen as we start to give the great artists a little more control. So props to people who end up being the hit makers for forever because they're able to sort of relinquish to the process a bit more instead of wanting to completely take over. And this applies across all things, including government, American institutions. You know what I mean? They're there. No point in testing them and changing them and wanting to be in power longer. So, with the whole January 6th thing, who knows what would have happened if that were to have been successful, but felt as if American democracy prevailed in that situation. And that is in no way me sort of like saying anything about the upcoming election. I trust that whoever wins, hopefully all the due American process will be had, and whoever wins, that's fine with me. But as long as our institutions are kept intact, Lynch.
We twisted into
politics.
world.
But there are some themes, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the end of the day, it's good to work with other people, collaborate on stuff because you just can't do it all yourself. And that, including if you're not feeling good, talk to someone.
You should talk to someone.
Which didn't really work out for Toni Collette in Hereditary.
No, and actually I looked it up after the fact. The husband, Steve. Poor Steve.
You
got to watch the movie. If you got to pause and come back, we're probably not going to talk about it that much longer, but just so you could feel what we're feeling right now as we're feeling it. Theoretically, it'd be a good idea to watch it. But poor guy.
I know.
And he was a psychiatrist. I looked up what his job was because he was just always home and just picking up Peter from school.
Right. And when he sent that email too, I didn't realize it was like a familiar send.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's talk about some recommended horror movies, unless you have other thoughts about Hereditary, in which case go for it.
No, I was thinking though, under the lens, we should continue talking about the horror movies, but maybe under the lens of not just movies that are just good, but I'd love to know like also like the personal attachment to it as to like why it resonated with you so much. So like when people in the comment section, like if you comment like the greatest horror movies that you think are just great, but that's not what I want you to do. I'd like for you to comment a movie that really like stuck with you after you watched it. It could have been bad, but why did it stick with you? What was going on in your life that made it affect you a certain way? For me, Hereditary, it just made me think and feel family. and like I didn't really relate to the things going on in the film, but just like the dialogue was really like heavy, and it sat with me for several days afterwards.
Yeah.
And then I guess the first one that I would suggest was when I saw Us
I haven't seen that yet.
by Jordan Peele. That one just really stuck with me on the car ride home, and I thought about it for weeks afterwards. I really recommend that one. All of Jordan Peele's stuff.
Yeah, let me throw in on the short list, obviously, Get Out. If you haven't seen it, a classic. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But okay, so it's a good question. And to me, it's sort of like some of the themes are the same things that make any movie a good movie, but there are specific things to horror that make them better than other things. And look, originality in the story doesn't always have to be one. It's more about like the execution of that thing. So now we're all sort of like a weathered, experienced horror audience. We kind of know what to expect. We know there are the tricks that are going to make us jump, which is like silence to then a gasp or a loud thing, or like, those are going to make us jump. But like, how do you do all that stuff? So whether or not the ending thing ends up being, oh, it was a ghost, or oh, it was the devil, or oh, it was a demon, or oh, it wasn't any of that. It was all in their head, or was it in their head, or it actually wasn't anything creepy at all. And that's the twist. So like all these things can be effective tools, and it just kind of depends how you execute them. Like another example of a horror movie, it's not one of my favorites, but people seem to love it, The Conjuring. The Conjuring incorporates every single stereotypical horror movie thing all in one movie. And it's just done so masterfully that it's like a solid movie. You know what I mean? So like, and this is the same situation. So what are the things that were the strengths about Hereditary? So good acting, which is sometimes not always prioritized in horror movies, but as the genre has become more popular and more of like a sure bet for the box office, as movies kind of become less popular and are less of the medium that people want to experience things in, horror movies are more popular. So maybe there's more money and now they can get better actors, but having good actors execute this ridiculous thing that's being shown really goes a long way. To Toni Collette, whatever, to her credit, she was great. And I think good acting goes a long way. I also think that tragedy is as painful and scary as just the scariness. And that might be obvious in horror movies, people die, but how brutal is that blow, and how well do they paint the characters in reality before they do all these terrible things to them? That's why, to me, and this is another recommendation, Haunting of Hill House is so good, because you spend 4 or 5 episodes just soaking in tragedy, and it's just the saddest thing you've ever seen. And it's kind of slow even, but if you can make it through it, it turns into one of the dynamic, scariest, best shows of all time. And I think for that reason. So those are 2 things that stand out to me. And then of course, twists I always like. I like being surprised. And if I'm not surprised by the outcome, I like being surprised in how we get to the outcome. So a character that you don't expect to die so early, that you expect to be like a main part, or when you are certain that one thing is going to happen, then another thing happens. There was a couple moments like that, like with the book in Hereditary, or like a couple of those different kind of things where you don't see it coming, and it's not even just somebody popping out, because you can still do the popping out. That's always going to work. But how does the story twist and turn in a way? And this brings another recommendation on The Village. I love that movie.
2004.
Great twist. I love the movie The Orphan. That's a great twist. But it doesn't always have to be a great twist. Like Rosemary's Baby, the ending is pretty predictable, and yet it's one of the best movies of all time. So that's my long-winded thoughts on it.
No, I agree with you. There's been endings to movies that have been disappointing. Like Longlegs, for me, I was disappointed
I didn't see
with the final act. And I won't get into specifics. You should see it. But everything leading up to it, I was enjoying. And I've learned to walk out of a theater not liking an ending, but still enjoying the movie.
Totally.
Whereas in the past, I would walk out of a movie that I really liked until the ending and be like, that movie sucked because of the ending.
Totally.
You can still say a movie was good and not like the ending.
I agree with that. I didn't love the ending of The Shining, and I love The Shining. I think it's amazing. That's another recommendation. But yeah, agreed.
I also think comedy is starting to be blended into some of these more successful horror movies. I mean, Jordan Peele with his background, like Get Out is funny.
Yeah.
Us is funny. There's comedic relief. For every jump scare or terrible moment, there's comedic relief. And then also there's humor in the horror. Like something can be so tragic that it's funny. And it's interesting watching a movie like that where like both of those emotions kind of blend together, and it's just
Right.
cool. It's a different, unique thing. It's not just jump scares and stabbing and murder. It's a lot of thinking, and the tragedy can be funny because it's making fun of like a stereotype.
At least in bits and pieces and moments.
In bits and pieces.
100% agree,
Yeah.
dude.
Strangers, we both agree is
brutal.
that one is a must watch. Have you seen You're Next?
No.
Came out in like
Oh, yes, I have.
it came out in like the 2010s.
Dude,
that movie sits.
So
well
listen to
with
this. My girlfriend from high school, her brother is the bad guy in that movie.
me. That's crazy.
Randomly, right?
Because that's such a niche movie. A lot of people forget about that.
I know,
So
it's a great movie. So anyway.
I haven't watched it since I saw it in theaters, but that's another example of just going in, not knowing what's going to happen, not even knowing kind of like, it's like a drama, but maybe it's just it's a horror, but maybe it's a thriller. And then, what happens. And then you walk out of the theater with like that feeling that sits with you.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that one. I think that one is having a renaissance, even if it came out in 2012, but it's on Netflix or it's on
Great
one of the
movie.
main streamers. And then you mentioned Barbarian recently too.
Oh
as
yeah, that's a big recommendation
modern
too.
classic.
And Lynch and I were just talking about this. Like, I really appreciate a horror movie that the trailer is misleading.
Yes.
Which with Barbarian, they do a great job of that. I thought Hereditary, and maybe I just don't remember the trailer well enough, but I don't think that they framed some of the key characters on purpose because the outcome was surprising to me, which I appreciate. So
Yeah, and the horror movies now, just like there's so much more effort being put into the scripts. It's the victims of these movies aren't idiots like the tropes in the past. Geico makes fun of the tropes with the group of people that are like, where should we go? Should we get in the car? Or should we hide behind those chainsaws?
Right.
Like that was the trope of like a lot of the older movies. But the ones today, like it's just like traumatic, personal horror.
Yeah. And you know what's cool though too about it's a good point, but the tropes exist because they were successful and then doing them was too obvious, so you couldn't do them anymore. So a lot of the time watching the like original classic horror movies, there'll be like nostalgia or appreciation, or you're like, oh, well, that's where that came from. And like, it might not hit the same way that it should because you now know it's a stereotype even without having seen the movie.
Yeah.
Or it'll just be like campy and kind of seem silly, but like still be a classic, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Freddy Krueger of the first one, Nightmare on Elm Street. Although that movie's pretty good still, but not that scary. The original Halloween's scary, in my opinion. The original Exorcist is scary. Poltergeist, the original, is like good and kind of scary, but not that scary.
But good.
It was also like, it's scary at the beginning and then it's not scary. And then I realized this as I was watching it, it was literally a made for TV movie. So it was like pretty tame, kind of like a Stranger Things vibe almost, but just like 80s production quality or whenever that was made, early 90s.
Yeah. I'm not backpedaling here, but the trope, I'm talking about how it got tired in the early 2000s.
Totally.
Some of those movies
That's
started
what
to
I
get
mean, though.
yeah, no, that's what, yeah, but I appreciate the old classics too.
Yeah.
But when they pivoted, it feels like in like the late 10s, it's just these movies are slapping hard. And like you said, like people are coming out to see them. The marketing team behind Longlegs, I mean, love or hate the movie, they did such a good job. I'm going to remember that movie in a positive light, even though I didn't love the third act and the ending.
Yeah, you can appreciate the whole rollout, 100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and also like you said, like as the horror movies started to become bigger budget, they could get big actors. Like there's some early like that whatever shift you're talking about, and I think it's more of like a progression. Like the same way with comedy, it's like the same thing that was funny in 1990 isn't funny anymore because you see it coming. So you have to like improve and adjust. And like I remember the movie Dark Water, Jennifer Connelly's in it. It's just like a really good fucking movie. But that's like one of the first times I can remember being like, oh wow, like horror is turning into more of a thing. And she was already a big established actress at that point. She'd done a bunch of stuff. And yeah, anytime I see a horror movie roll out with a big actor in it, I already know, I know it's going to be good.
This one, Dark Waters?
Yeah. Dark Water. Is that Dark Waters?
This is Dark Waters with Mark Ruffalo and Anne Hathaway.
No, different.
No?
Dark Water. It's, what's his name's in it? The guy from Step Brothers, but not Will Ferrell. John C. Reilly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check that out. I'll save that to my list.
Yeah.
So yeah.
you know,
comment below anything that we're missing, but like I said earlier, not just because, oh, these are classics. Like, if it's a classic and it also hit you some type of way, I'm more curious about that.
Yeah, totally.
Because that enhances it. And
Put us on.
Yeah, we'd appreciate that.
Another good horror movie is called Event Horizon. It's like a sci-fi horror movie. It's so fucking good. Sam Neill's in it, the guy from Jurassic Park. Great movie. Super scary and like fully holds up. Like I watched it recently, scared the shit out of me. Alien's another good classic, like scary movie.
I got to see
Jaws. I mean, these are no longer like horror movies necessarily. Obviously, Silence of the Lambs is a classic, just because it's so masterful. Like all the bad guys are so iconic, and apparently a lot of it based on Ed Gein, the serial killer.
Ed Gein.
Gein. Yeah. So anyway, here we are. And dude, I saw like a guy wearing a Jason mask playing the theme in the subway, and people were like walking with their kids and they were like concerned. They're like, all right, come here, sweetie. It was like pretty creepy.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that.
Pretty effectively creepy.
No, I don't like. I follow the Subway Creatures account, and there's people. I saw a video once where there was a man with a baby mask on, completely covering his face, and he was like humping the pole. I have yet to really encounter like a true Subway creature like that, but you know, that guy probably filming a TikTok trying to be silly. It's Halloween, good intentions. You never know. You never know. I would not trust that. I would move carts.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
So dude, since I've moved to this neighborhood, this phenomenon has started happening to me a lot more, and I need to work on it because it's embarrassing every single time it happens. And it happens all the time. It's always happened actually, but it's been happening more often recently. And it doesn't help now that I have noise canceling, like the newer AirPods. Before I had the old ones where you could hear other things. And when you're in the subway platform and you mute it, which is what I usually do, you make it so you can't hear other stuff. This will happen to me a lot. And this is what it is. I'm singing along to whatever song I'm listening to. I'm not audibly singing along. I'm either mumbling it or just lip syncing to myself. And I'll bump into somebody that I know and they see me before I see them. And they're like, Giulio, like, and I'm just like, and I'm like, fuck. Oh, hey, what's up? Sometimes I'll pretend I'm on a call. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'll call you back. What's up? It's so embarrassing, dude.
It is. You feel like you're in an Apple commercial.
Yes.
You're just completely zoned out, vibing. Dude,
this product works too well.
You need to be on transparency mode when you're underground. That is a death wish.
You think so?
To not have your senses in this world that we live in.
Yeah,
seriously,
true.
Whenever I'm in a sad mood, I put on noise cancellation on the subway.
I always put it on the subway because the subway is so shitty that it's nice to drown out all the noise. Showtime, or even just like all the chaos and the noise and the loud train coming by. It's amazing and liberating to not be able to hear any of it. Once I come above ground, I turn it off because I want to be able to hear things around me. But to your point, I guess maybe it's a little bit of a risk, but the environment's controlled enough. Like I know where the threats are coming from and I can hear the train still.
Yeah.
It's not as much, but it's a good point.
Like if you're in the middle of a subway cart and there's no way the doors can open, and if somebody pulls out a gun and starts shooting, there's nothing you can do about it. So
yeah, that's true.
That's the controlled environment, I guess you're speaking about.
But although it is nice to see them as early as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some good emails here. So
we just got one in the interim.
We just got one that's also good.
We're getting emails.
We got some good ones. Okay, this one I really like, so I want to do this one first. This one's called "Is My Boyfriend Overreacting?" Okay. So, hey guys, love the pod. Going to try to keep this short, but provide as many details as possible. My best friend has been dating a married man for over a year. He's wealthy, so she definitely enjoys the perks of that, but seems like they're in an actual relationship. In parentheses, aside from the fact that he's married. Recently, my boyfriend has expressed concern about the fact that I participate in things this guy pays for. Over the past year, he has provided private transportation and nights out, full expensive dinners, and has paid for multiple activities that me and my friend group have done together. He never comes around when we take part in things that he pays for. And there's never an uncomfortable situation that we are put in where he's trying to set us up with his friends. There's no ulterior motive, is what she's saying. My boyfriend knows that I disapprove of their relationship, and he knows that I've told friends multiple times, that I've told friend, I guess she means the friend, multiple times that I don't approve of it, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to be there for her and be a support for anything she's going through. My boyfriend essentially wants me to stop participating in these activities that he pays for and says that by me participating, I am, quote, condoning cheating, But I want to take advantage of the times I get to hang out with my friends and not have to pay for some stuff. It's definitely a perk because I'm a broke bitch. Does my boyfriend have a leg to stand on, or is he overreacting, and should he just let this go? Thanks.
I think the boyfriend's being a bitch. If I'm being straight up, like in her qualifying reasoning as to why she wants to spend time with her friend, the guy's never around, there's no ulterior motive, and they always get to do fun stuff. Let her do that. Once he starts showing up and you see who he is, like then I think you have merit to set some parameters. But until further notice, she's just hanging out with her friend, and it's as if she has like a sugar daddy or her own father's credit card to play with.
Right. So I ultimately agree with you. However, I don't want to say I get where the boyfriend is coming from, because it does kind of just sound like maybe he's jealous or just worried that this like negative, let's not even call it negative, but this sort of
suspicious behavior,
and not even that, just that all this activity is tainted, right, by this sort of cheating husband who we don't know what his arrangement is with his wife, but he has this younger girlfriend. He doesn't participate, probably because like he wants to maintain the sort of dynamic where it's like he's this older guy, experienced guy. If he starts coming and hanging around with them, he's kind of like showing that he's out of place, but he can still kind of like, you know, maybe he's not doing it and maybe there is no ulterior motive, but it's a good way to kind of control her, where he's like, okay, I'm going to give you all this stuff that you get really used to and that like you need, and then you will have trouble walking away from that, right? So being part of all that to some degree is icky. Maybe the jealousy comes in where like, okay, for now he doesn't hang around, but what if he brings his married friends who are also rich and who can also provide this lifestyle that he can't provide? Maybe there's some appeal there. Maybe she'll start considering these guys who are making these advances on her and he doesn't fully know what's going on. I get why he doesn't like it. I don't know how much I would like it either, but I still maybe ultimately agree, Lynch, with what you're saying. But there is always an ulterior motive. And maybe it might not be directed towards the person who sent us this email, but it's definitely directed at the girlfriend of the guy who was married. And it's all good, la-di-da, ha-ha-ha. But then suddenly when push comes to shove, he can hold it over her head. Oh, but I do this for you and that for you. Oh, you don't appreciate it, da-da-da-da-da. Like that can kind of always happen, which is why, you know, I encourage all the ladies out there and men, but I think it's more traditional for a woman to be put in this position to try your best to have your own financial freedom so that you never let a man control you. Because at the end of the day, it's all good when it's all good. But then when it's not, suddenly you don't have a leg to stand on and you have nowhere to go because this person controls everything because he pays for your whole life. So, you know, I think there's like a little bit of that. So I get where the boyfriend is coming from. Is there a way for her to just participate in all this completely innocently? Yes. And I'll say this. I've had situations where I had a friend who was dating a person who was older and whatever, and like paid for all of us to do stuff, and I would go and enjoy it. And like, it sort of ultimately comes with a price at the end of the day. And like, suddenly if there's ever a scenario where this guy needs you for some reason, either if he's keeping tabs on his girl or if whatever, like you're going to feel like you owe him and you don't want to be in that position in a perfect world. So like, yeah, sure, all this stuff is great, but it is a little bit of a like selling your soul to the devil situation, obviously far less extreme. So you just got to be careful. There's a way to navigate it, but don't get in too deep. Don't maybe try to avoid starting a friendship with the guy. It sounds like she's never met him, so great. And I don't know how long this girl's been with this guy, but this will progress. This will become more than what it is. Unless the girl ends it or whatever, which it'll be her burden to bear and she'll learn her lesson maybe, or maybe she won't. And maybe there's no lesson to learn. But these are all things that should be taken into consideration. So while I think if the boyfriend is just being jealous or whatever, like I think that that's a self-fulfilling prophecy that will just push the girlfriend away from him ultimately. If he's sitting here bitching about it, you kind of just like this is my advice to the boyfriend. You need her to like learn this stuff on her own. You can't be preventing it. And planting these seeds to like encourage her not to do it aren't going to help you. You might be right, but you just kind of got to let her rock. You got to trust her. And if you do, your relationship will remain strong. If she's going to leave, she's going to leave. And even if it's with some creepy guy who's friends with this older guy and she ends up going and dating that guy, you can't stop that from happening. And by trying to stop her from going and hanging, it turns into you versus her, which is an easier thing for her to sort of push away.
She mentions in the email that she says that she disapproves of the relationship. Has she said that to the friend that's in the relationship?
It sounds like she did.
Okay.
But, but I agree with her sentiment where she's like, okay, like I can tell the friend my concerns, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to not be friends with her because I sort of disapprove of this relationship.
Yeah.
While it's, it's a taboo thing that she's doing, and there's some obvious drawbacks to it, to being the side piece and to all that stuff. It's obvious what all those things are. It's not extreme enough of a situation where you shouldn't be friends with the friend anymore. Mm-hmm. Now, look, if you want to choose not to hang on this guy's dime, that's fine. If he doesn't even know about you or doesn't even know you, you've never talked to him, like it's easier to sort of put a barrier there where you can walk away from it easier, but make sure that you keep that lane to exit very open, because it'll close slowly and you won't even notice it's closing. And once it does, you'll be in too deep and it'll fuck you up.
Yeah. Because
now this guy who's like, oh, he's the older guy, he's this father figure almost, and now he turns into this weird toxic peer who's trying to sway you, same way your boyfriend is. So I feel for the boyfriend. I agree with his thoughts. I don't agree with his approach. But these are just all things to consider.
Yeah. I just wanted to confirm if she spoke to the friend about it.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind until it becomes a thing.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
But good to be aware of the potential ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
While we're at it, sorry.
That would be a good plot for a horror movie.
Indeed.
The door closing.
Indeed, Lynch.
Figuratively and theoretically.
And literally. Okay, we got a parking ticket one, which is relevant because I talked at length. I talked about this on the pod, right? The parking ticket.
Last Tuesday.
So I ended up fighting it. Did I say that on the pod?
You said we were contemplating with Chris whether or not you were going to fight it.
Yeah.
So you fought it?
So I fought it. It was easy. I mean, you could do it online, and it just basically said attach any documentation that supports your argument. I basically just sent the timestamp of when I paid the meter versus them having the information on the ticket, which says when I was issued the ticket. So hopefully that'll be compelling enough. If they have a good retort, I'll just pay it. If they're like, well, he processed it before you paid it and then it hit at this time, so therefore, okay, fine. But this is what he has to say. Parking ticket. Listening to the pod as I'm walking around writing parking tickets. Nice. As an expert in the parking field in the Hudson Valley, which is in upstate New York, if you guys don't know, I figured I'd give you some of my expertise. You should definitely try to fight and appeal the ticket. We have an app too, and once in a while it is just terrible timing, and we write the ticket as you're paying on the app and we don't see it, which is what I said. People will just take a screenshot and show they were paying at the same time, and we drop the ticket. Another option is to just not pay the ticket. They won't come after you for $30. Sometimes I see cars who have unpaid tickets from 2014. Finally, for fire hydrants, I've absolutely, this
so he's
is
transitioning now.
Sometimes I see cars who have unpaid tickets from 2014. Okay, fine. But it was a rental car. So I wonder if somehow the rental car company will just pay it since it's assessed to that registration. And then I'll have to pay it 3X. I mean, so that's why I'm fighting it.
Could you get out of that though? If you get a parking ticket for a rental car, you return the rental car, they find out months later that a ticket is owed, and they track it down to you. Can you cancel the credit card, connect it to the account, so then you never have to pay for it?
No, because I want to keep using this rental company.
Fair. But good to know.
But yeah, and I think, in theory, if you're like out of state, like you probably never have to fucking pay it, as long as you don't plan on spending a ton of time in Ohio. But there's no point in letting $30 hang over you. You don't want any surprises down the road, and now the problem is compounded, and now you owe a bunch of money, and it sucks. All right. Finally, for fire hydrants, I have absolutely no idea how much distance you have between your car and the hydrant. I will only write a ticket for a fire hydrant if you are clearly in front of it. Thanks for making my days a little better and making me laugh as I walk around getting yelled at by people. Dude, tough job, but I appreciate you being for the people on this and being fair. It is what it is.
It's good to know that there's good parking meter pals
Yes,
out there.
it is good to know.
But there's no clear, concrete answer on the like how close you can park it, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that Chris mentioned 9 feet, 10 feet.
Yeah.
Like with that answer, us knowing that he wouldn't give a ticket can't change the way that we park, because there's so many other people with different ticketing leveling.
I'm going to send a screenshot of this too.
Sorry, God, I'm trying to find the words. I'm trying to find the words.
So yeah, dude, that's a tough job too. People are screaming at you, how do you sleep at night? And you're like, dude, you think I wanted to be a meter maid? That was my ambition in life.
Is there a job out there that is universally hated more?
I don't know, dude.
I'm trying to think what would be on the Jeopardy board. Not the Jeopardy board, this Family Feud board.
I know what you mean though. Yeah, I wonder what other jobs people just hate you. Oh, the guy who serves you. You've been served.
Oh yeah.
I heard this the other night, dude. This made me laugh so hard. I was standing in front of a barber shop. It's a place where they do sort of like a speakeasy comedy thing in a barber shop in the East Village of New York City. If you've been around the city, you probably know about it. And it pops up when you look for things to do in New York, I think. But this guy, Isaac Gartenberg, younger comic, funny guy, he had his dog with him. This is a little cute Chihuahua mix or something, and they're holding it. This group of people walk by, and they pass us, and one of the guys from the group turns around and comes over and goes, oh my God. He's like, can I pet it? And we're like, sure. And he starts petting it. He's like, what's his name? It's like, oh, it's a her. Her name is whatever the name is, Penny or something. He's like, oh, that's such a cute name. He's petting it. And then his girlfriend comes up. She's like, oh, sweetie, like, are you ready? And like, she thought it was so cute that he was petting the dog. And they all walked away on their Gen Z way. And this guy, Kendall Farrell, this other comedian goes, oh, we love a gentle, distracted king.
A gentle, distracted king.
Which is exactly what he was. He walked by us, got distracted by the cute dog, turned back, gently petted it, and everybody loved him, and it was a nice moment, and then we moved on with our lives.
He's a king.
That was
lovely.
A classic thing. Dude, let me ask you, oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, you go.
Let me ask you this. When, I don't understand this phenomenon, I do it too, and I don't know why we do it. When you go out to eat at a restaurant, why do we feel the need to tell the waiter we loved it? The waiter didn't do anything. He didn't make the food. If I say, man, I loved it, it was so good, the waiter saying thank you just rings as disingenuous to me. Oh, thanks so much. He doesn't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care if you like the food. I mean, he cares if you liked his service. If you say the service was so good tonight, that's meaningful. But why are you telling the waiter that the food was great?
That's like telling the pilot after a safe flight that the flight attendant's pretzels were really tasty.
You loved the snacks.
I loved the pretzel snack mix with sesame sticks. They were fantabulous.
Exactly. No, dude.
Yeah,
it
I
drives
don't
me
know.
crazy.
And working in a restaurant too, it's funny you mention that because like, oh, my compliments to the chef. Like, no one has time to relay the information to the line cooks that they enjoyed the meal, nor do they give a fuck. There have been times where like a customer was insistent, like, oh, please, please tell Miguel that he made an amazing filet tonight. And I've gone to the back where it's literally Friday night hell. It's like an episode of The Bear. And I'm like, table 37, which is not names or people. He doesn't know who that is. Table 37 really liked the filet. And he's just like, okay. And he just moves on. He's pissed at me for wasting his time to give the compliments to the chef.
Yeah. It's like, bro, let me... Yeah, my dad will do that too. He's like chit-chatting with my dad. The guy has a job. Let him go.
Yeah.
This happened. This is funny too. This happened at that wedding in Nashville that I talked about a couple weeks ago. There was the first night there was people walking around with hors d'oeuvres. This is Allie and Ben's wedding, we had a great time. And there was this delicious like sushi rice thing. And it was just like a Jean-Georges restaurant. So this is like high-end good shit, like steaks. Like I said, they invented molten chocolate cake at this place. So there's this sushi rice and I'm hitting it and it's so fucking good. And I'm not sure if Hillary has had any yet. And I see her, she's talking to one of her friends, and I pointed it, and I'm like, as I'm eating, I'm like, you gotta try this. Oh. And she's like, can you stop pointing at the food? Like saying that I need to try it. You look ridiculous. And I'm like, you're right. But like, it's not me being like, this is so good. Like, I thought specifically that this would be an hors d'oeuvre that you like.
It's an urgency thing.
But I get that, I get what I looked like doing it. And I'm now embarrassed. But I'm like, oh, you got to try these. It reminds me of like Uncle Frank in Home Alone when there's like good silverware. He's like, put these in your purse. Put them in your purse. Oh yeah, more champagne, please. More champagne. Like act like you've been there. You know what I mean? Like I shouldn't be surprised that the hors d'oeuvres are good. But these were specific things that I thought Hillary would like because she doesn't like that much food, to be honest. She's like a little particular and like she knows what she likes, doesn't like what she doesn't like. And like when there's a home run, I want her to know, babe.
100%.
I get why I came off.
At the wedding that I was at in Cape Cod, let me just say, the hors d'oeuvres, that is the best food at the wedding.
Oysters,
little lobster rolls, little cups of clam chowder, little tuna tartare, little steak tartars on a little cracker with horseradish sauce. I mean, that is what it's all about. And when we were at the Cape Cod wedding, I did very similar things. I had a little tiny lobster roll. It was a little buttery buddy of mine, and I ate it.
Lobster roll.
And they were sought after, and it seemed like they were the rarest of hors d'oeuvre. And so when I found one, I was holding a plate of them, and I'm running against somebody else for the last hors d'oeuvre. I have one on my plate, and he doesn't have anything, and you don't care. The rules are off the table, and so if she's a little embarrassed by you in the moment, did you end up giving it to her?
No, but I didn't because they were passed.
Yeah.
So she probably ended up having it, but
you got to lock them down and find a direct line to get to them to beat everybody else. And then after that, like the food kind of sucks. And in my opinion, the dinner kind of
dinner's
sucks.
never as good as the hors d'oeuvres of the stations.
No, the hors d'oeuvres are sweet and tasty, and it's an alpha move to get it for your gal.
100%. I was at the stand the other night, Paul Italia's birthday party, who's one of the owners of the stand. Shout out to Paul. And they had a bunch of seafood sort of stations, including these giant Alaskan crab legs. Now, when I initially looked at the Alaskan crab legs, I was like, I don't feel like fucking busting open a crab leg, splashing. But I realized the crab legs were cut in half and prepared to just scoop. I know. So I maneuvered over there. I got there. There was one crab leg left. And I just assumed they were going to put more on. So I took it, and it was this fucking giant, like, I could have been a cane, dude. This thing was so huge. I turn around, TJ Miller's standing right behind me. He goes, "Oh, what the fuck? You took the last crab leg." "Oh, come on. What the fuck?" And he was fucking with me, but I did feel embarrassed.
Don't let TJ Miller do that to you. You grab that crab leg.
I grabbed it and I hit it.
If he wanted it, he could have gotten there before you.
It was salty and wet and delicious.
That is one of the bougiest treats you could ever experience. Crab legs,
ass
that is
Alaskan
bougie.
crab leg.
But to not have to get your fingernails dirty
know,
to
dude.
eat them,
No bib.
mwah,
I know.
like mwah.
Fucking unbelievable.
That is delicious. Yankee Stadium, the Legend seats, they have it prepared like that, and it is one of the 8 wonders of the world. Or it's the 8th wonder. It's 7 wonders. That's the 8th one. That's delicious.
Dude, potential hot take here. I think eating from a buffet is for pikers. You're scooping. And like, dude, here I am in the fucking Delta Lounge doing it, and we're all doing it, and it's just like embarrassing, dude. Scooping. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and scoop the pork. Oh, I'm scooping. It's fucking whack. Oh, the buffet, or like you're at like a thing and everybody lines up. I'm like, dude, I'm not lining up for the fucking buffet, dude. This half of the room go first because you're all disgusting and are all going to bum rush the fucking table. There's enough lasagna for everybody, you fucking beasts, including me.
What happened? Something must have happened.
I'm just embarrassed scooping. Oh, I'm going to scoop now. I'm going back for more. Seconds. Oh, I'm going to have more.
I think that's a lovely experience because you get to pick how much food you get.
I'm being a piece of shit.
No, you're fine. I theoretically and in regards to the buffets, I disagree with you.
I wrote down here, I do it every time, but ripping the lounge buffet is for pikers, parentheses, turkeys. Turkeys.
I get that. Well, then call me Turkey because Vic got me into LaGuardia's lounge.
It's one of the best lounges that exists.
And I mean, the fresh, healthy beef and chicken options. Call me a piker. I went up for seconds. I went to the coffee machine and I had the spa water and I had a little piece of tomato focaccia. Dude. And I had my way with it and it was free. And on the flight back, I had to spend $40 on shitty Panera bread.
Yeah, dude. The Chase Sapphire Lounge at the B Terminal of LaGuardia is an elite airport lounge. The only better one I've ever been to is the Delta One Lounge, which is obviously makes sense. It should be. But, dude, it made me want to get a Chase Sapphire card, even though I'm an Amex guy.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
It was awesome.
I never fly out of Terminal B either because of Delta, but still, bro, I want it. I just want to be able to go when I'm there.
Yeah. Do you Airbnb often?
Never.
Okay.
I try to avoid it at all costs.
Okay. I have a new gripe with Airbnb.
Please.
So they charge you a cleaning fee.
Dude. So yeah, in the move, you have to check the box that shows you what the entire price is going to be. Because it's like, oh, $60 a night, not bad for 3 nights. And then you look at the final bill and it's $600. You're like, how?
I don't know. The thing that bothers me about the cleaning fee is that you still have to like throw the towels into the washer. We had to throw towels in the washer and put soap in and run a rinse.
So you're cleaning yourself.
So we're cleaning. And then we're paying a fee, and it's always like $100 at least.
A lot.
And so if you own an Airbnb and you're going to charge me a cleaning fee, while also me doing the work to clean, I'm going to make it a little bit of a mess.
Yeah.
I took gum wrappers out of my pocket and I found a corner and I dropped them there. Like if you're paying the cleaning fee, you can dip toilet paper in the toilet just to get it a little wet and then throw it in a corner.
Yeah.
You're allowed to go stand in the sand with your dress shoes and then shake it out on the floor. You can step on a pretzel and just stomp on it until it turns into grains of sand. Like you're allowed to do that because you're charging me regardless of whether I keep the place spotless or clean. I'm going to make it a little messy.
100%, dude.
A little messy. I'm going to leave shit in the fridge.
And this is why I don't like Airbnbs. There's a couple of reasons. So first of all, it's hard to see. Now, there's famous horror stories about them. The Are You Garbage guys have one. They told it to us on the pod.
Oh, yeah.
Where like they caught
cigarette?
them smoking on the front lawn through a ring cam. So there's a lot of like surveillance happening, which is weird. Now, even if there's not, it's hard for me to discern. First of all, I want the entire place, which immediately catapults you into like a really expensive area. Now, the problem is that even if you have the entire place, there's a couple of things that it's hard to tell. First, does someone normally live here? I don't want to be at an Airbnb where you normally live and you go away for 10 days a month and it smells like you and your blankets smell like you.
No pheromones.
Even if they're clean, I don't want to smell you, dude. I don't want to smell anybody. I want a neutral scent, a neutral branded hotel scent. I don't want to smell you. Now, I don't mind an Airbnb that's only an Airbnb. There's certain buildings that the entire thing, like in Miami, will all be Airbnbs and it's conjoined with the Westin or whatever. And like, it's all Airbnbs, great. And it's hard to like, I don't have enough expertise and I don't know if this expertise even exists because I think it's ambiguous on purpose to like make you consider more options. But I think it's hard to discern what's what. And the final thing is just sort of like the unpredictability of living in a home where there is no concierge on site. And if there's a problem, who are you going to call? We stayed in Washington, D.C. in an Airbnb and it was the middle of the summer and it was hot. And dude, there were cockroaches falling out of the lights onto the floor.
What the fuck?
And this is a nice place. And there was no way to know. And like, what are we going to do? We can't move to a different room. Like we can get our money back, I guess. But like too many variables, hotel for me all day. And especially because Airbnbs aren't even necessarily cheaper unless you're willing to stay in some fucking commune where there's 7 other people in there and there's a shared kitchen. You might as well stay in a hostel at that point.
Yeah.
So
I like the idea of Airbnb. I like Airbnbs when you're with a group, but you have to understand like the beds are inconsistent from room to room.
Oh yeah.
Our bed was
Big
very
time, dude.
soft, but it was broken. And so underneath it, what's the kind of plastic box? There's definitely a name for it, but it is
It's like college, like the storage.
It's like a
boxes.
storage box. It's what Buzz Lightyear is trapped underneath
Yeah.
in Sid's room in the 1999 film.
Tupperware.
And,
R.I.P. Tupperware.
Yeah, and so that was what was holding up the center of the bed. And every
Jesus.
time my nostrils flared, the bed just went.
Oh god, dude.
And it was brutal. And Airbnb owner, did you advertise that in the description that there's going to be a broken bed? Because maybe we wouldn't have went there if there's a broken bed.
It sleeps 12, but one of the things is a sofa pullout, and the other one is like a fold-out futon
That's glued to
and
the
then,
ceiling.
Yeah, and then there's like 5 of the rooms have bunk beds,
Yeah.
and like, bro, fuck all that noise. And it's also annoying because if you're with a group, I'm the guy, and it sounds like you might be too, where like, I'm not going to just go take the best room. So I'm automatically not getting a good room. There is a guy who does take the best room and he gets the best room. And then you end up with some shit end of the stick. And I'm like, I'm too old for this, bro. I want complete independence and privacy. I want a hotel room.
Yeah.
Period.
The last thing, stop advertise. If you're an Airbnb owner, don't advertise that you have a TV if you don't provide TV service. Because
log into your shit.
that is a digital screen. It is literally the most nothing thing mounted onto a wall if we can't watch anything. Like nothing, no cable, no basic cable, no channels 1 through 5, like literally nothing. And they're massive TVs. They're expensive TVs. It's like buying a car without an engine. It pisses me off when it says like, ooh, sign in.
Yeah.
Like just don't have any TVs at all.
Yeah.
So
Dude, 100%.
it really pissed me off.
Couldn't agree more.
Flick boogers against the wall. You're allowed to do that.
Couldn't
You're
agree
paying
more.
a cleaning fee. Flick some boogers behind scrap them behind the bed frame or on the bed frame. They're gonna have to clean it anyway, whether you wipe boogers on them or not. So just go for it.
Yeah, unless there's like a massive pricing discrepancy, there's no world where I will ever choose an Airbnb. Even when I was in Africa, dude, I stayed in this sick Airbnb. Little do I know, the guy who owns it is living like in a conjoined house. Now it was great because it was great in some ways because he acts as like a de facto concierge. So
In
if
case
you-
cockroaches fall out of the sky.
that too, but like, if you're in Africa and you want to like line up all the things people do when they go to Africa, the gorillas, safari, like you can do that through him. So that's helpful. But like, he's also spying on you. I brought a girl back because when I was single still, and he told me that I'm not allowed to do that. And that it's for my own safety and that I should be careful doing that. Bro, leave me alone. Why are you watching what I'm doing, Jean-Claude?
Little peeper.
So 2 more things I wanted to add. Number one of my new hobbies is taking a bath. I'm taking baths all the time.
You have a nice tub.
I have a nice tub, and we're talking different kinds of baths. Epsom salts baths, bubble baths. I light a candle. I bring a magazine. I might as well be reading a cheesy romance novel and drinking red wine in there, dude. I am a housewife, and I'm enjoying it. So if you guys are having nice baths, let us know what your routine is.
Yeah. My drunk habit in college was to take baths.
Fuck yeah.
I would fill the water all the way to the tippy top, and then I would tantalize my toes as they cross the border between air and water, and then just sink my body in, and then my friends would come in and they would laugh like, "Oh, Ryan, you're in a bathtub," classic. and then I'd get water all over the floor. So yeah, that's really nice. I remember taking oatmeal baths because I would get poison ivy all the time.
Yep.
But is there any benefit to oatmeal baths?
I think it's good for your skin in general.
Cool.
I need to start doing that, Lynch.
Nice.
But yeah, I love a therapeutic bath. I also love shower bombs, but I like Epsom salts bath is my favorite, I think.
Good for you. That's really nice. You should get, actually, never mind. One of those trays.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that could be nice. Have a little snack.
That could be nice.
A nice little snack. And finally, I'll say this. I don't know how hot of a take this is, but I've realized that I don't like food items that include both cheese and cream. I want one or the other, Lynch. I don't want mayonnaise on my cheesy sandwich. I don't want sour cream with my quesadilla, even though that's a kind of a nice pairing. And I actually don't even mind it, but just the idea of it grosses me out.
Double dairy?
No cheese and cream. One or the other. Olive oil with the cheese.
Yes.
Or just mayo. Mayo's fine.
I think olive oil can go with anything.
Olive oil's amazing.
That's really nice stuff.
I've learned that I put Hillary on to olive oil life. I'm an Italian.
Yeah.
But it's the best. It's the juice of the gods, the nectar of the gods. Whatever. So
It's really good.
anyway, that's our show. Giulio Gallerati, Ryan Lynch. Catch me at Not Julio. December 13th, I'm going to be at New York Comedy Club Sanford with Lynch. One show, 7 p.m. It's going to be great. Come on down. Bring your friends. Let's pack that bitch out. Very excited for it. Oops.podcast@gmail.com. Got a lot of exciting stuff. Subscribe to my personal YouTube channel, by the way. I think you can just look up my name, or I think youtube.com/notjulio will take you there too. I'm trying to build that channel up in the coming year. Also subscribe to us on YouTube, Oops Podcast, oopspodcast@gmail.com for all your emails. Oops the Podcast on socials, @NotJulioG on Snap and TikTok, @NotJulio on Instagram. Lynch.
Ryan is really polite on Instagram and TikTok. Please on Twitter, please follow me at Ryan is polite. Someone took Ryan is really polite. I love to tweet on there. I love for some of our Oops friends to see it. And then check me out. I am in Jersey City on November 7th. And then 2 shows in New York on the 8th, that following Friday. And then I'll be with Giulio on the 13th of December. So thank you guys for listening. Please comment below the horror movies that stuck with you. And maybe give a backstory as to why it stuck with you. And then hoping by the time this comes out, the Yankees have a seasoning lead over the LA Dodgers. Go Yankees.
Yes.
Thank you.